do is to build a lot. When we're building the homes, we need to build smaller ones and locate them in many communities, because it is totally unfair to take people away from their families. So that's the only thing I would add. It can be done. And the cost of keeping a person in a hospital bed can range anywhere from $300 to $400 to $1,000 a day when a person stays in the hospital. When a person stays in a long-term care facility, it runs between $100 and $150 a day, that cost. There's an enormous diseconomy with the government putting people, and they're called in the hospital circles bed blockers. And it makes it very difficult for people to get the kind of care they need when it's an acute problem. And the waiting time to get an operation done, or those kinds of things, when you have what is called bed blockers, who aren't sick, who just need somewhere to live. And it seems to me totally economically stupid of a government to not be planning this.
The average waiting time for local nursing homes in this area is 2 to 3 years.
Yes.
I know I was through the process 2 years ago with my father, and we had to put him in a retirement home at $2,200 a month till we could get a bed freed up in the local manor over in Winchester, which the hospital has subsequently taken over. It's just pathetic, and it's expended seniors that are from low income from even beginning to think of going into a retirement home prior to going to a nursing home because they cannot afford it. These people were farmers and low income workers, and they just literally can't afford these nursing homes. The average run around here is running between $1,450 to $1,500 a month for a shared facility, like a room, and it's just pathetic that we're doing this to our senior population.
And the amount that these people eat, and the amount that it requires to take care of them, somebody's making a heck of a lot of money at the expense of families.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to power, but before I do, I just want to say thank you, Michael, for saying that when we get into power, we will not repeal the HST, because everybody bashes it, but nobody says what we would do. And no other New Democrats have ever spoken as bluntly as you have about our alternatives. And mind you, the fact that we can't do anything about it. But it's just really nice to see that kind of frank talk on the table, because all the rhetoric against a program, amounts to nothing when you consider what the alternatives would be, and there's nothing suggested for an alternative. So thanks so much for that frank talk. But getting back to power, obviously we have to do something to restart the engines of Ontario's economy, yada yada. And I'm not sure what we are going to do, but one thing I'm kind of afraid of is that are the Liberals doing something similar to what other governments have done in terms of healthcare? If you make the public alternative so expensive and so untenable, people will start clamoring for a private option. Do you think down the road with this, tremendous increase we have in the cost of power coming down the pike in Ontario, is there an agenda there, a hidden agenda to privatize?
Well, privatization has been a problem for the last 15 to 20 years, as you know, and it's not going away. The P3s, they've certainly moved in that direction. Yes, I believe, like you do, that there may be a hidden agenda to move in that direction. And you know what happens when things get privatized? Prices go up. I know when the utilities way back, the hydro utilities, Hydro One, and mine's a new utility in Hamilton's Horizon. I remember when we had our own hydro company, Stony Creek Hydro, and we had about 60,000 people, and my cost doubled when they went to Horizon, and so this is the type of thing that bigger is not better in a lot of cases, and the efficiencies are not there. A lot of cities in Europe are de-amalgamating. They're going back to, in England, London, England, was all amalgamated, and now they've gone back to the borough system and to 100,000 people or less. They've gone backwards rather than, because bigger was not better. The services weren't there, the costs were going up, and they were just hiring more and more staff, more bureaucrats, and people were just paying more and more, and it was going in the wrong direction. Yes, that possibility is always there. I certainly hope that isn't the direction that the Minister of Industry is going, but we don't know. You got anything on that, Michael?
Well, no, I would just add to that. New Democrats firmly believe in public option. I mean, you have to know that. That's who we are, what we are. I have a story. When I was the mayor of East York, against my will, council voted 5-4 to privatize half of our garbage collection. But and even though I opposed it, in retrospect, it was a wonderful example of what happens. They said we could save money. They took half of the borough of East York, some 60,000 people got privatized garbage pickup. The other half got public, the regular guys. And so it began. At first, Laidlaw, who got the contract, was able to undercut. They had brand new trucks, they had new routes, they had employees, although they were unionized, who worked they worked a 40-hour week, but they worked it over 4 days, 10-hour days, so that they could collect the garbage and take it and dump it. And they were more efficient. Yes, they were. But in the same year that that happened, on our side, the public side, we bought garbage trucks. We sat down with the union. We redid the routes. We negotiated a similar contract with the workers to work their 40 hours over 4 days. And at the end of year one, Laidlaw was a little bit cheaper because the borough was getting its stuff. In year two, the borough option was the cheapest. In year three, Laidlaw sold the contract to WMI because they weren't making any money. And in year four, at the end of the contract, no person, no industry bid for the contract. It had to be all brought back in-house because they could not compete with public enterprise. The reason they couldn't compete is because they weren't making any money. Because public enterprise has to provide the service, and they have to do it at a cost-efficient and good way. The other one, in order to do it at the same price, would literally make no profit. Well, you can imagine, nobody wants to be in business to do that. And I tell people this story all the time. If you properly run it, and if you put the same kinds of efficiencies that are capable of being made, then it makes absolutely no sense ever to privatize. Absolutely never.